Delacluze 2 from Jacques Delacluze 12 Etudes, and then Etude number 2 from Tompkins 9 French American Rudimental Solos.
And good job. First of all, thank you for participating and congratulations for the achievement that you just did. Right here for about maybe 45 seconds or a minute, just play a little short excerpt of what you think is your kind of your favorite sections.
Okay. I really enjoy the opening of Delacluze 2, so I'll start with that.
All right. Good job. I'm glad you chose that at the beginning because I want to make sure that you're careful not to over pressing those multiple bounce rolls.
Okay.
We have a tendency as drummers, as we get louder, we kind of want to put more intensity into it, which is good, but we also end up pressing it in too far, and they turn from multiple bounce into presses. Okay. So you want to keep that quality. You come up. Does that make sense? So as you come up, you don't want to press that in. Also, the crescendos, decrescendos, going to P does not necessarily mean you have to go to the edge of the drum. When you go to the edge, it's a little bit easier to play softer, that's true. But what does it also change as you go to the edge?
Tone quality.
Yeah, tone quality, exactly. It changes the color or the timbre of it, okay? So if you want to make sure and keep a consistent tone quality as you go up and down, that's fine, to stay in the center. If you want to actually change the tone quality, you know, go in and out. It's also a visual thing too, you know, because I mean, visually going, you know, down and back, you know, that type of thing. On passages with grace notes, can you play one of the, just play one of the passages that has some flams in it, please? All right, yeah. Make sure, especially the louder you get, try not to lift the grace note too high, because if you end up with a too high of a grace note, they turn flat on you, right? So as you're coming up, go ahead and leave the grace note down. And make sure that your ear is hearing the bra, 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 bra. Does that make sense? Yeah. So just play me some right flams. Crescendo and decrescendo, just right flams. If you'll notice, you started raising the grace note as you started raising that, the primary note also. You do want to raise it just a little bit because it's a volume thing. But if you raise it too high, it ends up turning flat. Did you hear it turning flat as you got to the Mezzo Forte level?
I think I could.
Yeah, well, listen to it again. Now, probably listening to it now, you're going to correct it. But, okay, so let's do that again. Okay.
And should I try to leave it down?
Yeah, just make sure you hear the grace note hit before the primary note, especially as you get to Mezzo Forte to Forte.
Right.
Good job, Ace. Okay. Now that was my notes on the Delacluze. On the Tompkins, you play it a little bit more bouncy, which is good. Okay, but as you're doing the bouncy aspect of it, don't lose the control of the articulation on the notes, especially what I call the interbeat notes, the unaccented notes. Okay. And keep the unaccented notes a little bit lower. Yes, again, you do want to vary them with volume as you get louder, but we need to make sure we have a definite differentiation between accented and unaccented notes, especially again as we get to Mezzo. In fact, if I remember right, this whole piece is pretty much just right in the Mezzo Forte level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So make sure that you keep a good definition between the accented and unaccented beats. So just kind of choose a little pattern there where you have some accented and unaccented inner beats, and just play through that for me, please.
Okay. I'll just run through the first line, see if I can repeat that.
All right. Very good. Okay. And if you'll notice, what you're also doing is you're starting to let it breathe just a little bit. Did you notice that you're putting in a little minor, kind of subtle crescendo with that? Yeah, that's getting into musicality, which we'll get into in a second. But that was a really, really good interpretation there. Now, this whole thing is Mezzo Forte. There's some crescendos, decrescendos, stuff like that. But pretty much the whole piece is Mezzo Forte. Mezzo Forte is not strict. It's sort of a box area where you can kind of maneuver around. You know, it's sort of like a B is not strictly a 3. You know, you can go 3.1, 3.2, B plus, or 2.9, B minus, you know, that type of stuff. Okay. So what you just did on the crescendos with those singles, you're coming in those accents, you can actually do that phrasing wise. So instead of just a little snippet breathing, you can actually make a whole phrase breathe within the context of Mezzo Forte. It's similar to speech. In fact, music is a communication, right? We communicate to one another. We vary, even though I'm speaking pretty much in the same volume level, I've got intensity on some words and kind of backing off on other words, right? It's within the same volume range. So kind of pick a phrase and see what you can do with it to make it breathe just a little bit like that.
All right, let's start at A.
Okay.
They play 2 lines.
Very good. Especially, you know, right in the middle there, your accents got a little bit higher. It still stayed within the Mezzo Forte range, but it put a little emphasis on there. Yeah, that's letting the music breathe and communicate. All right, let's talk about the musicality side of this thing. You're doing 2 different solos. And I noticed in the video, you chose 2 different sticks, right? Good. What else are some things that you could do to make those 2 solos different?
I mean, first thing that comes to mind would be like change a drum that you're playing with. But,
yes. Changing drums. In fact, now this is a personal choice, but what I would do is on the Tompkins, I would choose a deeper drum that's a little bit lower pitched, and on the Delacluse, a little shallower drum that's a little bit higher pitched. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you could use 2 different drums. What's some other things that you could do?
Something else I think would be like the amount of power that you put into each stroke. I feel like Delacluse would be.
You're on the right track. Yes, you are on the right track. Are you aware of, say, the orchestral concert approach as opposed to the adapted or the adapted molar or the molar stroke?
Yeah.
Okay, because I notice a lot of times you are getting into a little bit of a molar type whip motion. Okay, so you could take the different pieces. You could approach the Delacluse more in an orchestral concert approach, and you could take the Tompkins on the deeper drum and approach it more with the adapted molar whip type stroke. That would differentiate the 2, and it also show that you have a master of different types of strokes, right? Which is a good thing. Okay. What's something else you could do? Especially on the Delacluse.
So we talked about drum selection, stroke type.
Take a look at something that's in the Tompkins that's indicated for you to actually do. that's not indicated in the Delacluse. I'll give you a hint. It's right below the note values.
It's double strokes that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, the stickings, the rights and the lefts.
Oh, okay.
See, there you go. You have a little bit more of an option with the Delacluse. Yeah, if you play, say, 16th notes, for example, if you play them with single sticking, they're a little bit more staccato than if you play them with a double stroke or diddle sticking. It's the same rhythm, and you can play it within the same dynamic aspect, but one is more legato and one is more staccato, right? You have a lot of choices that you can make sticking wise in the Delacluse to make this your own piece. Which lastly, on this aspect is these types of pieces we hear in district and state auditions all the time. So you'll end up having 25, 30 performers coming in playing the same piece. When you're going through, you hear number 9, number 10, and all of a sudden number 11 pops out. Why did number 11 pop out? Because they made it their own. They're playing something that's other than the black ink that's on the page. They're doing something with the music to make it breathe, to make it their individual personality. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So what we can do here is we can actually run through both pieces because we have time to do this now. Play the Delacluse, so you don't have to change drums, but take what we just talked about, and remember the technique aspects, but take what we just talked about on the orchestral approach. Make this more of an orchestral approach to the Delacluse. So let's play through that.
Right.
Okay. If you make some mistakes, if you kind of want to try to choose some stickings and you make some mistakes, that's fine because this is a learning process. Okay. But let's go for it. Right. If you notice right there towards the end, you started adding a little bit of molar as you got into the final section going to the end. Okay. That could be a good transition into the next piece you're going to play. But try to make sure that stays within the realm of the orchestral concert approach. Right. So now we're going to play the Tompkins. But what I want you to do is I really want you to exaggerate that adapted molar whip aspect of it. Really get bouncy with this. But also remember that we have to control the inner beat bounces, and we also have to have that differentiation between the accent and the unaccented heights. The inner beat's kind of being down just a little bit, okay? This, you can relax, you can let it be bouncy, let it breathe, musicality, both within rhythmic structure and phrasing, okay? So really think old rope drum, old school type approach here, right? All right, so let's go for it. Have fun and enjoy relaxing playing through this.
Okay, yeah.
Now, how did that feel? I mean, it's a little bit more of a relaxed, whipping approach, kind of exaggerating. How did that feel?
You know, it felt good.
Yeah.
Felt like I was just really getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and because it's very enjoyable to play relaxed like that. And the cool thing about approaching the drum with this kind of Muller whip technique is the bouncy aspect of it. And you could take rudiments that tend to kind of be stiff as you're playing through them, and you bounce them out. Like the difference between flam taps and inverted flam taps, regular flam taps, right? They're bouncy. Well, if you isolate the right hand, makes sense?
Yep.
Now, you can actually take the inverted flam tap, which tends to be a little bit more staccato, but if you use that bouncy whip, you do bounce, bounce, whip, and that whip actually creates the pull out accent. Makes sense? And you can actually play them faster. And you can play them relaxed instead of, because if you try the, sort of velocity or orchestral approach, you really have to pull it out.
Yeah.
So the bounce, bounce, whip, bounce, bounce, whips makes them a little bit easier and more relaxed to play. All right. I really appreciate you coming on again, taking the time and effort to do this. You did really well. Congratulations on this. And I'm sure that you are going to continue on in the rest of your life through the enjoyment of playing. So irrespective of what you choose as a career, move forward, whatever, if you keep playing and keep enjoying it, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful life for you. All righty?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bell.
Thank you for everything you're doing, bud.
Thank you, Drew. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right. First of all, congratulations on your accomplishment, and thank you so much for doing this virtually, keeping Impact going. And it's a wonderful experience for you. And that's pretty much what this is all about, is the student experiences as I move forward. Since we're kind of recording this and doing this live for all posterity's sake, mention your name and the piece that you performed.
Okay, my name is Quinn Spear, and I played Swerve by Gene Kaczynski.
Yes, you did. You played it very well, too. Okay. Let's start kind of with the technique, and then we'll get into the musicality and G aspect. While the rubber stopper section, especially there at the beginning, it is bouncy, make sure that you are controlling the type of rhythm and the type of quality that you want through that bounce. It got better throughout the rest of the piece, but right off the bat, whenever you shoot right off the bat, it kind of took you a while to get comfortable with where you wanted that to kind of lie. Does that make sense? So let's just throw that out right now. Just pick up the stick with the rubber stopper, and right wherever you start playing with the rubber stopper on the head, just play through that.
Okay.
Start off. Very good. The different variations, are you wanting those to come out on purpose, or are you trying to do the little variations and making sure that you have a sense of phrasing within each time you play?
I'm not really sure I understood that question.
Okay. Every time that you use the rubber stopper on the head,
Right.
are you wanting to vary the tone quality and the balance, or are you wanting to be consistent?
I think I want it to be more consistent.
We'll talk about that in musicality in a second, okay? But if you do want it more consistent, you have to make sure that the rhythmic structure comes out the same, okay? And that's just a repetitive type practice over and over, all righty? Dynamic variations. Mezzo piano, for example, is a box. It's a range. It's not something that's specific. So within mezzo, you're playing a passage that is the whole phrase is in mezzo piano. You still can increase dynamics and decrease dynamics, and make it breathe and phrase a little bit, similar to the way that we speak and communicate and talk to one another. I'm pretty much staying the same volume right now, but I'm also changing the intensity of what I'm saying and kind of backing off. I'm a little bit louder here and a little bit softer there, but I'm staying within the same dynamic range. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever you are playing something, kind of think about that, because it's not something that's just square, especially in something that's as wonderful as this piece. This is a really enjoyable piece to play and an enjoyable piece to perform. Make sure that you take the end of the phrases to the limit, but don't become too crass with them, unless that's something that you're wanting to bring forth in the musicality and GE aspect of it. I would actually save the crassness towards the last few measures as you end the piece, okay? All right, the musicality aspect of this, that's what really makes this piece, okay? What's an adjective that you could use to kind of describe this thing?
Adventurous.
Adventurous? Yep. Well, something else.
I'd say fun.
Yeah, fun. The adjective I chose is whimsical.
Okay.
You know, something that's really fun and whimsical, and things that you can kind of have fun with the different phrases and the initial statement that keeps coming back and stuff like that. Okay. You have to make each diversion unique unto itself to make it fun, to make it whimsical. Okay. And each diversion, like I said, can have its own little variations inside of that diversion. Okay. Then you go from that diversion back to the main statement, right? It's sort of coming back and then diverting off and coming back. That's the swerve aspect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When you return to the main passage, this is kind of where you can start really, really having the whimsical fun with this thing. I know I'm showing my age here, but you can actually go to YouTube and watch this if you've never seen it. There was a show called The Muppet Show. One of the first skits they ever did was called Mana Mana. Have you ever seen it?
I've heard the song.
Okay. If you watch it, it's brilliant, because you got this Muppet and you got the little choir over here, and it's Mana Mana, and they go ba ba da da Mana Mana da 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 da. Okay, so that's the main theme. And then he goes off on a diversion. And they kind of look at him. He goes, and then they look at him. He goes, okay. So do you see what I'm doing? And you go off through the diversion, and then you got to go back to the main passage. But it's like, okay, I got to come back to the main passage. Click. Okay. So take a little pause. Sigh, click, go into the main passage, or go, really? Back to the main passage. You see what I'm talking about? That takes this up into the musicality and GE level that makes this thing really fun, and it makes it communicative to the audience, okay? The other thing is you can do to add things in, and like I said, don't force them in. They have to kind of come across naturally and comically. But something else you could do, there's a really cool section where you're using the rod that sounds like a tick-tocking watch, tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It's a kind of a little short section there. But imagine if you had a watch on your wrist, and you got into that and you go tick-tock, tick, and you looked at the watch. That transports this thing into something that's whimsical and fun, right? You need to present to the audience that you are really enjoying the aspect of the brilliance of this, the whimsical aspect of it, the fun of it. You have to look like you're having fun, right? And you have to look like, here we go again. I got to go back to the original statement, and also the free improv section, okay? In the liner notes, you have 3 requirements, right? That he gives you, that he wants you to do in that free improv section, okay? You have millions of other choices that you can make in that free improv. Okay. Try to think of things that you could do that could surprise people, that could kind of make people laugh, chuckle, kind of take note and go, oh, wow. Okay. That is a time for you as an individual, Quinn, to show your own personality. Okay. What you did was nice. Okay. But try to think of a whole bunch of different things. And you can record yourself in the practice studio. You can have somebody watch, take notes, or it's just you come up with something, you can kind of take a note, and you kind of build this kind of free improv list of tools that you can pull out of the toolbox. And you can use different freestyle things each time you perform it. It can be completely different. It can reflect how you're feeling that day. It can reflect the audience that you're trying to get across to. Okay. Again, it makes this thing more open, more whimsical, and makes it Quinn's. Okay. Lastly, visually emote the absurdity of this thing. Okay. Again, don't go overboard with it. You don't want to look like that you are forcing the issue. Okay. But if you'll notice how animated I've been while I'm talking, I'm using my hands, I'm moving around. I know that we're unfortunately at a time where a lot of people are wearing masks at this time, but you can kind of give a little sarcastic, motion with your face. Believe it or not, those types of things do influence the way that you perform the piece of music, because there's a lot of times where I could close my eyes and it's great. And when I open my eyes, it's because of the way that they're visually approaching what they're playing. All right. So why don't we just let you play through the piece? And I want you to let go. If you make a mistake, that's fine, because we're going through a learning process. Okay. But I want you to let go. I want you to have fun with this. I want you to mana. We're going to come back. Really? Click, mana. You see what I'm talking about? Have fun with this and experiment through that freestyle section. Just kind of experiment through it. All right? So emote, have fun with this, make it whimsical, communicate to us, make us chuckle. Right? So go for it.
All right.
Yeah. I hope that was as enjoyable for you to play as it was for us to listen to and watch. Okay. Whenever I'm in front of ensembles, like I gotta get made fun of every now and then because they know whenever I'm enjoying myself, I end up looking like Baloo the bear in Jungle Book, kind of dancing around. You grooved. That repetitive pattern that you always go back at, that thing was grooving, and it got me bouncing. And what was cool is you were bouncing. You had that little head bob going. Okay. Did you notice that actually influenced the way that you were playing?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you notice you actually are now having fun and enjoying, transferring this not only through your own body and enjoying here, but transferring it to others?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that is performance. Okay. That is what it's about. The enjoyment of what we're doing while we're playing and the enjoyment of communicating that to others. That was beautiful, dude. I mean, really beautiful. So thank you
so much.
All right. All right.
Thank you so much, Quinn. This is Carol Helbel here. I'm with Steve. Thank you so much for performing, and congratulations on everything that you've achieved this week. It's kind of been a big week, hasn't it? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close up this part. And so I'm going to stop this recording.